Hi, it's Michelle from CNC Designs. I'm an independent Stampin' Up! Demonstrator in New Zealand. And I'm coming here today to show you some fabulous projects I've made with the Timeless Tulips stamp set and the Tulip Builder Punch, which is in the current mini Stampin' Up! Catalog. So that can all be found in this catalog here. So, I've been making lots of things besides cards. I have been making tulips. Ta-da! Lots and lots and lots of tulips. So the Tulip Builder Punch is so fun to use because, as you can see, you can make flowers very easily. Just by using the punch by itself, or as you can see, some of them I've used the stamp to color them, the leaves and the flowers. So that's the stamp here and that leaf there. They match the punch perfectly. So I'll just show you some of the flowers I've made, and then I'll actually show you how to make them. So like some of the flowers I stamped onto the cardstock and then colored with our watercolor pencils. This one here, I'm not sure if you can quite see. See if I can get it in focus. There's I put it through the subtle embossing folder to give you a bit of an image on there. Some of them I stamped in completely different colors. So this yellow one here I stamped with the green. I've stamped the leaves as well. And then there's a few like this one. I just cut it out with the punch and then just sponged around the edges. Some of the inside ones here, I put some watercolor pencils on there and then used some water to blend it in. This one here, I stamped it in one color and then used the pencils just to give some shading to the outline of the stamped image. I'm not sure if you can see here, this one here. That one is embossed with words, which I'm going to do a sample of that. That's embossed with the Scripty embossing folder. This was the first ones I did. I did 3. So I did 3-sided, and I stamped the leaf and just did it on the wire. So you can see the image comes out really nice in whatever color you choose. The tip for this is don't have your stamp too juicy, and quite often when you put the ink on the stamp, it doesn't look like there is ink on it because of the way the stamp is made, but I assure you there is ink on there. So this one I put some different colors and did the watercolor on it. A few of them I have sponged. I can't see them there. That one I put some pencil on it, and you might be able to just see I did some Wink Stella on there to give it a bit of shimmer. Let's see, some more. This one you might be able to see better the words on there. So after I embossed it with the words, then I went over it. That was with the silver ink, so you can see it better. And here I again stamped the image and then used the watercolor pencils to give it a bit more depth. This one here shows a bit more of the sponging, so I sponged it in different colors, different layers, to give it a different effect as well. So there's lots of things. Here's another sponged one, and I think I did some watercoloring on that as well. So there's lots of things you can do with the cardstock to give you some different looks and colors. And all these, you won't find the same background color on any of these, because what I did is I went through all the colors I had and just grabbed scrap paper and punched. To get these 3D images, I did 5 punched out 5 flower images. I did think of using less, so these were my first samples. So this one I did 3 with the red cardstock, and so it comes together pretty well. But as you can see, the stick shows up there, and the sticks are just normal wooden bamboo skewers, and I colored them with my blends pen. So whatever color you want, you can just color the pen and leave it to dry. You can do it with the watercolor Stampin' Right pens, but that might come off, so I use the Stampin' Blends. And then this was just 2 leaves stuck together, and then simply decided to put some words on that. So that's if you do 3. So it depends on what you're sticking it on, because that shows the stick, whereas this one with the 3, it doesn't, but that doesn't hold in very well. So I actually did a little circle of wire and stuck that flat against one of the sides. You might see some bending there to keep it from pulling straight out. Otherwise, it would just pull straight out to the bottom of the flower. So my other attempt was doing 5, because they say things are better if they're in odd numbers, and I think this looks really good from the sides. It just gives you that much more depth. And I did the same thing. This is the one of the dies from oh, I forgot the set. I think it was Lovely Lilies, so I'll have to look that up. But this is a die from, oh no, Dressed. The All Dressed Up die set is the die for that. Okay, so I'm going to show you how to make the flower. So this flower I'm going to do, we're going to do the embossing. We're not going to do any stamping, but I will give you some tips on doing the stamping. First of all, the punch, it's a builder, so there's 2 different images that can go together. So you see the flower and the leaf, and they coordinate with the flower stamp and this leaf stamp. Okay, it goes that way around. There are 3 different leaves in here and 2 different stems, because there's 3 different flowers as well. So these stems lend themselves better to other flowers, and then these leaves are skinnier and they look better with the smaller flowers, but the stamp set does that flower and that leaf. Now, when you stamp it, what you should do, the best thing to do, and I always do it when I first get a punch, is I create a template. And doing that, I just take some scrap paper or piece of card, and I just go ahead, slide it through, punch it out, and I have a template. Now the reason I do the template is if you do want to stamp and you don't want to waste too much cardstock, because if you stamp the images too close, you won't be able to cut them out properly, and you might cut another image off, is then when you go to stamp, you can line up your stamp right there in the center. So you could stamp there, and if you were doing them both the same color, or if you wanted to ink both at the same time, you would simply stick them into your template there, line them up. Mine are nicely stained because I've been using them lots, and then you can actually have them both lined up, and then anytime I stamp this, I know it will perfectly fit to be punch out both image in the punch at the same time. The other thing too is when you're putting your images on the paper, remember where the bottom of your punch is, because if I were to say stamp that up there, when I go to punch it out, I can't slide it in because that's too high. I'd have to then cut the paper to get it to slide in. So you need to remember where your punch is going to punch out. And so if I were stamping here, I'd stamp there, and then this side I would stamp it that way, so I have the flat end at the bottom. So those are a few tips. This is my template I use for my Stamparatus, which is another good idea. If you have a Stamparatus, it's fabulous using templates with it. If you don't have a Stamparatus, you should run out and get one now, because they are wonderful. So to save on paper again, what I would do is, I've made my template. It's just, my template's just made with a bit of old cardstock. In fact, this is card that you get that the dies come on, and it has sticky on the back. So I've just punched out, so I have that. And so what I would do is, if I want to do a whole bunch in one go, I would line up my image, so that's my flower, and then I would take the second plate which is great that we have plates that we can remove, and put the leaf in there, line it up in there. Yep. And then what I would do is I would just go put white card in here, punch, 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 just keep feeding white card, punch out a bunch of white blanks, as I call them. Then I would pop it in there, ink this up, press it down, I'd have my flower done. Then I would put a leaf image in there, and then I could stamp that separately. So that's another way to save on paper. And if you don't have a Stamparatus, you can make your own template. I found that I can get 5 of these cut out of a 2" by 6" piece of cardstock. And so if I'm doing the flower, I just would slide it in like that, punch it out, and then the next time I slide it in the other way, because then the curve will match and then it uses up less cardstock. So if you've cut out a whole bunch of blanks, as I call them, you could then actually use this as a template for your white card. Put it over your card stock, your white card stock, and then you could just simply stamp into each of those images, and you know they'll be far enough away that you can punch each one out, and you just slide it through, punch them out. The same with the leaf. You could do the same with the leaf. You'd be coming through from this area and slide it through. Okay. Now, it's also great, you can use this for punching the DSP. As I said, I could get 5 of these, which is perfect to make one flower, out of a 6 by 2" piece. So the designer series paper, a lot of times it comes in 6 by 6. This is the lovely, I believe it's called the lily pad. The lily pad paper. So the back is a really nice design, so I could punch a whole bunch of flowers out of this, and I think I probably will, just so I can make some flowers later on. So just to show you, so line it up, punch it out. To save on it, doesn't matter, I'm punching it upside down, but see how the curve is there? So bring the curve as close as you can. Hopefully you can see that. And then punch, and see whatever's on this side is going to get punched out by the leaf. So now I've got 2 images there, and I'll show you that again. I'll bring it close up so you can see. So see how I've got that curve left over. I punched it that way. Now I've turned it over so the curve is going the right direction, and when I get the curve in there, I just slide it out of sight, and then I just punch, and that way I use as little paper as possible. Now if you are doing this with designer series paper, just be aware of what type of paper you're using, because some images don't work as well. Now actually, it looks like I might not, oh, I might be able to get it out. Let's see, I might have done that one too close. Oh no. Yep, I was correct. So 2 by 6, perfectly 5 images. So, I mean, you could make your flower like that if you like those colors, but they don't really line up and match very well. But I do like the pink, so I could easily do a flower using those 5 pink images. So that's showing the DSP. So like something like this, if I were to cut it out, and you can use your leftover paper to give you an idea of the images you'd get, it's kind of, you know, doesn't really match and it's a bit busy. However, the back side is quite nice, and that would look pretty good. Just some green with polka dots. Okay, so I just did that as a sample. I wasn't going to make the card out of that. I'm actually going to make card flower. I'm actually going to do a black tulip. Now you might be thinking, what is she talking about? She's crazy. Now, so this is 6 inches by 2 inches wide, which is metrically we're 5 centimeters by just over 15.2. And so if you slide in from the right, these punches are meant to be set on the table. They're quite heavy, but they're meant to be set on the table and used that way. So don't worry about punching it upside down. So slide it in. Should be able to get 5 out of here. Turn it over. I should have started the other side so you can see my little stuff up. I was seeing what the silver ink looked like on it, which wasn't very good. So that's my scrap 3. That's not going to work. Let's see if I can salvage this. Just checking. It's kind of hard to see where the black is when you're punching. And I think I've got that all in there. But okay, doesn't matter what the back looks like because it's going to be hidden when I glue it together. Okay, so you're probably thinking black tulips, that sounds horrible. Well, it's not going to look horrible in the end. So I've already pre-colored my skewer with some green blends. Other thing that I need is some leaves. So this one I'm not stamping at all. I showed you how you could stamp and it's quite easy to do. So this one I've just got a scrap of garden green paper and I'm just going to give myself 2 leaves. Now you could get away with 1 leaf, but I find it's easier to hold onto the stick if you stick the 2 leaves together. There's 2 leaves. Okay. Now I do say leaves, but they don't have to be leaves. You can stamp on those in a different color, and for example, so there. So the whole point of that is that you could actually give more depth to the outside of your flower. So they can be stamped in different colors. Every time I do this, I keep seeing the tail of a cat or a fox. So that's another project I might do in the future. Do something making that a tail. So here's everything we need. And we are going to emboss it. But before we emboss, to make it easier to do the tulip, you should score down the center. Now hopefully you can see, I'll push this forward enough so you can see. There we go. I don't know if I can zoom in or not. Let's see, I'll try to zoom. Oh, I can zoom in. This is just doing it on my actual phone, so I don't have any fancy video equipment. There we go. Hopefully I remember to zoom out when the time comes. So using your trimming tool that has a score on it, you can line up the tulip, and I'm not sure if you can see that. I'll do the pink one. It's probably easier for you to see the pink on the pink. So if you line up the tulip, the tip of the tulip right there, right there in the center, you can see it's in the center. I think I zoomed too much. So line that up just in the center, and using the score handle, which is the gray one, just back and forth a bit, and it puts a score line in there in the center. Don't panic too much if they're not all in the exact same spot, but as close as you can get. So I'm just going to go ahead and score these, and the other 2 little arms almost go right side by side. So I just go back and forth a couple times just to give it a nice indentation. Okay, so I'm going to emboss these black ones, and it's better to score the center of them before you emboss, because if you do it after, you might mess up your embossing if you put too much pressure on there. It depends on what embossing folder you're using. So far I've only tried using the Subtle and the Scripty embossing folder on these, but you might have an embossing folder that you want to give a try just to give you some texture to your tulips. So I'll just finish the last one off here. Okay, so those are all embossed in the center, so that'll make it easier for, scored in the center rather. That'll make it easier for when I actually, I knew I'd forget that, when I actually put them together. Okay, now we're back to, yeah, okay. So I'm going to emboss these using the Scripty 3D embossing folder. So that's got lots of interesting words on it. I think they're from love poems. And the best way to do that, you always put your embossing folder through your machine with the folded edge first. The top of it is the part that says Stamping Up. So that will be raised and the bottom will be pressed in. So to have these all the same, can't see it very well here, but the words are going this direction. So to have the words all going the same way, I'm going to put my tulips with the score line on the top, just randomly around here. I'm just trying to make sure that there's words on the top of the tulips. They're starting with some words or letters at the top. And it doesn't really matter what the words are because you're not going to be able to read them anyway. So, hi, Michelle here from CNC. Okay, so I have run those through the embossing machine, and you're not going to be able to see it very well here, the lighting, but there are letters there. And so you're probably thinking, well, why did I do that? I will show you. So now that I've put that through, I'm going to take our Shimmer Frost White paint, give that a good shake up, and that will reveal the letters. So this works really well on darker cardstock. So give it a good shake. And if you haven't used this before, it's fabulous. It comes in champagne, I believe, and this is a frost white. And our daubers have a little sponge on the top. They actually fit perfectly inside the circle, so you can just turn it over, and that puts the paint on there. Now you don't want too much paint, so you can just scrape a bit of the paint off. Okay, and then let's see if this works. I've done this with sponging. I haven't tried it yet with the shimmer paint, so let's give this a go. Oh, that's not quite doing what I was hoping for. Let's see. Oh, that's sort of giving us a bit of a silvery look. Okay. Huh, interesting. Not doing what I thought, but still giving us an interesting look, so we'll go with it. I was thinking I'd get more of a sponge effect, but probably because I had too much ink on there. However, regardless of that, you can probably now see the words are showing up. Okay, so I think I'll just kind of sponge it a bit, give it a bit of texture, and then the words show up a bit. So my other ones I actually sponged color over the words, and that got them to show up better. So you could possibly do that, but this is very wet, so that's why it's coming all the way in the background. But it's given a nice little shimmer to it, so our black is no longer looking very black. But the first one's quite dark, so I'm just adding more to even it up. So basically I'm almost like making myself some shimmer white, not white, more silver color. Yeah, so that's a different effect. So I might just take just a bit of that, scrape it off. The other thing too is the embossing folder. You could just put ink on the embossing folder, and then when you emboss, it would press the ink into the letters. Another one I might try, given the chance. So this is just kind of a new trial for me. Ooh, it's looking quite good, I think. I don't know what you think, but I'm liking it. Even though this is supposed to be white, it's looking silvery, which is sort of the effect I wanted anyway. So I'll just go right around there, give it a chance to dry. I'm just trying to pick up any excess ink I might have on there. It doesn't matter if the sides don't match perfectly, because when you put it together, you're not going to see all the sides in one go. So I think that looks pretty good. So, except for the fact that I've got white. Interesting, it says frost white, but it definitely looks silvery. So, don't know if you can see these guys, but you can now definitely see the words. See, that's the words you can't see in the black, but now that I've done the shimmery white, you can definitely see the words. So the next thing to do is, because we put that score line in first, it's easy to fold. I don't recommend you burnishing it with your bone folder, because you do want a bit of irregularity and not to have it too stiff. So just gently fold it where that score line is, and that score line just helps you to fold it in the center better. Alright, so once you got that folded, then putting it together, there's a few tips to that I've learned from ending up with a very sticky mess all over myself. Let's see if my Tombow is going to cooperate. So first you want to start with 3 of them, stick 3 of them together, and make sure you get enough glue at the tips and around the edge. So we're just going to, and this one is definitely one that you do want to use liquid glue for, because you need the wiggle room. So first you put glue on one, and so you glue one side down, and then you just go to the side and adjust it. And so hopefully you can see I'm just adjusting it to fit the edges, so you don't see any color coming through there. Then you take one and you stick it on the other side, and again just adjust it so you have the edges perfectly lined up. Now this is where you can go in if you want to use your bone folder and just gently rub those sides together. Okay, so that's just, so those are 3 stuck together, and as you can see, I mean, that's what a 3-sided flower would look like, but as I showed you before, the stick shows through. So then the other one, you just want to put 2 sides together. Okay, and pop those 2 sides together. As I said, it didn't matter that I'd stamped on the inside, because you're not going to see that. That's what the silver stamping looks like, and this is what the white frost, so strange, the white frost looks silver to me. You can get those 2 together and just give them a gentle, don't want to rub too hard because you do have the embossing on there. Now if you're doing a solid color, you can give it a bit harder rub. Okay, so once you get those stuck together, and they stick pretty quickly with Tombow, you need to have your stick ready, and then on your 2-sided one, put the glue, again don't forget to get up to those tips. So this one we want the glue everywhere, and then I just pop a little glue down at the base of the first one, because that's where the stick's going to go. So pop your stick down depending on how far you want it to go. And then you might need to bend those edges up slightly to pop it in. And again, just lining up the top bits. Okay. So if you don't have enough glue up the top, the edges don't come together very well. Don't worry so much about the stick when you first put it together. Use your time to wiggle the edges into place. Make sure that there's no other color showing. So if this is normal cardstock, it wouldn't matter if the card's showing edge to edge, but because this is now looking more like it's silver, I don't want that much of the black to show through. And just pinch in the top. If you're in a hurry or doing a lot like I was doing, I just slipped paper clips through the top to hold it in place. So you can do that, but our Tombow dries pretty quickly. So once you have that, then just turn it over and work on the bottom. And because you have the stick there, it's not going to come together really tight, but you want to hold it in place for a while to let the Tombow attach to the stick. If your stick were to come out, you can just put some Tombow on that and slide it back in, because you'll have the little gap there. Not sure how this is focusing. Is that going to focus? Okay. So I'm just pushing that in place best I can. Hold it for a little bit. Okay. Then your leaf. I find the leaf looks best going that way, and I like the tulip with just one leaf. I think some people think there should be more than one, but I like just one leaf. So just little on one side, put a little down the bottom here, because that'll be sticking to going on the stick on the other side. So if we just place the two together, and again, you just need to arrange it onto the side of your stick. So a little bit of manipulating, if you have tweezers or something, that would be quite handy to hold it in place. Now with the leaf, the stamp only does one side of it. So if you want your image to be on both sides of the leaf, again, I recommend using the Stamparatus, because you can put it in the template, use our silicone mat to get the image to show up on the silicone mat, and then put the piece in there to get the image on the opposite side. And I could show you that in a minute once I get this. Okay, there. That's good. So there we have it. There's our tulip. And our, okay, so that tulip, which I thought was going to be black with white letters, has turned out to be silver. So you just never know what you're going to get. So I still think it's beautiful. I like that tulip. I still think that's really lovely. And I can add that to my collection of other tulips. Right there. And so I was talking about the double-sided leaf, and if you want to, I can just show you. Let me just grab something up. Okay. So this one's one that I sponged, and so you can see the effect of the sponging. See how the leaf's got an image on one side and that side, but the stamp only goes one direction. So what you could do there, let me see if I've got any green left to punch out. Okay, so we're just going to randomly punch. So I'm just going to randomly punch a bit of green out here. So what you do is, with the Stamparatus and your template, you line up your leaf in the template. So I will just show you and pick it up. Now, use your silicone mat. I happen to have my silicone mat in here because it helps to give you a cleaner edge. So with the silicone mat, It's great for using for inking things up, gluing things, etc., because nothing's going to stick to it for long. But what you can do is, using the template, we've got our template, our silicone mat, we're going to ink that up with our garden green. Give it a good press. And what you probably can't quite see because it's very dark is that image is going onto the silicone mat. I'm just going to ink it up again. You can do this like with a window sheet as well, but I find the silicone mat works much better. So you would put a window sheet in place of your silicone mat. Okay, so now I've got the image there, a couple layers of ink. I've got my template, my punched out blank leaf. I set it into there, and then what I can do here is ink that up again. You notice it doesn't look very dark. That's because the stamp was made that way. Turn it over, and now I press. Now the pressure is going to will obviously stamp this side of the leaf, but it's pushing it down in the right spaces to pick up the ink on the other side. Sorry about the wobbling camera. And now when I pull it out, you see we've got the leaf there, and we have the opposite image of the leaf there. That's because it picked up what was inked under there. And as you can see, if I show you here, you can see that there is ink on that silicone mat. So another great reason to get a Stamparatus and a silicone mat is you can do double-sided. You could do the same with the flower if you want it. So we can have both images. It would have come out darker if I'd put some more ink on there. But that was just a sample to show you how you can get the leaf on both sides. So see there and there. All right. So I hope you enjoyed that. If you liked that video, please give me a thumbs up. Don't forget to subscribe so you can see future videos. And there's all the beautiful flowers. You can see them a bit better that way. That's from the Timeless Tulips and the Tulip Builder Punch. I will be putting details of the products at the bottom of the video, as well as on my blog, because I'll be writing a blog about how to make these flowers. I hope you enjoyed that. The other thing we used was the Scripty 3D embossing folder. So if you want any of these products, contact your demonstrator. If you are in New Zealand and do not have a demonstrator, I would love to be yours, so give me a call or send me a message. You can go directly to my website to order if you don't live near me, but if you do and want to come to any classes, let me know. Another thing is, I forgot, I was just going to show you some other things I've made with the tulip. So here, that's using those leaf bits to add some depth to the front of the tulip, the same scripting folder. Here is simply building a whole bunch of tulips with the Tulip Builder Punch, which is what it was made for. This one, Happy Easter, and I've just done some popped up tulips inside. That is the punch. These ones I fussy cut, but I cut the punched ones down to make it closer to the flowers. And then, last but not least, part of my reach, is this one. I've recently done with the masking technique with a whole bunch of tulips there. I'll watch the space because I will be doing a video shortly showing how to make masks and get the beautiful tulip background here. And so there's the tulip and the leaves that punched out, but the rest of it was from the set. All right, thank you so much for watching. Hope to entertain you again soon with another video. Bye-bye.